Alright, so we are here, Mid-Ohio and the truck. This is going to be a pretty interesting one. So, I'm going to go in the cockpit here, turn down the volume for you guys, and the way that we go here, so I apologize, I don't know any of the corner numbers, so but I think this is a pretty respectable time, and I feel like I drove this pretty well. So what I do here is around the 200, between the 300 and the 200, going to turn 1, I go on a trail brake, so not going over 30%. And what I do is I use this, at first, I should back up a little bit. So I start out at a larger brake around 40, and then as I start to turn my wheel, I go down to that trail brake 30%. And what this does is it gets my car rotating so that it can kind of get in this groove. You want to aim your car not at the curb. The curb is a little too low. You don't really want to be right by the curb either. The car doesn't really love it down there. I love being just a little bit up off the curb. That just feels like where the car has the most grip. If you hear your right rear tire sliding, that's not good for the race, but it can be fine for qualifying. So I'll show you here. So that was a little bit of right rear tire sliding, which kind of tells me that I was rotating the car, but you definitely don't want to do that during a race because it'll really hurt your tires over a long run. So this corner here, I don't love upshifting to fourth here. It gains you like maybe half a tenth, but it makes the downshift more complicated for me. So I just like keeping it in third and hitting the chip until around the 300 here. And then I get on my max brake in this truck, going completely straight on the wheel, around 80%. You don't really want to go over 80% or else you're going to wheel spin, lock up a tire, kick out the rears, fun stuff. So we start out at max braking. We try to hold that max braking, and then as we start to turn our wheel, we lower our braking, and we just try to get onto the curb and stick it. So you see how I'm trail braking this entire curb here, then I transfer it to partial throttle at the apex. And then once I can see the yellow curb, I start to unload my wheel, start to raise my throttle at the same time. Just like an oval track. You want to not wait until you can go full throttle until your wheel is completely straight, or else you're going to get rear tire spin. And again, that's going to be one way to minimize tire wear in the race. So notice the half throttle until the wheel is straight, then I go full and I deal with a little bit of oversteer, but that's okay. So one more look at that. On the brake, trail brake, get on the curb, hold the curb, wait, partial throttle when you start coming down the hill, and then full throttle when you can get the wheel straight. Same idea with this next corner as well. It's another tight turn, so we're going to bring it up through the gears, and my point is a little bit farther back this time because we're at a higher speed. I actually start braking a little bit before the 400 here. Again, we're on the max brake. As we turn to the corner, we lower our brake. I had a little bit of a coasting moment there because my car was getting really loose. You can see a little bit of wheel spin on that. You see that wheel spin there? That means I almost pushed it too far. So you might even want to be a little bit more early than this getting into the corner, but this was pretty fast because I was able to survive it. That coasting moment was just so that I could get the car stabilized, and then I'm back on the throttle. Then I just hold, I do a little bit of a throttle jab right here just for a little extra speed, and then I want to stay. So one big thing here is as you're getting through this right-hander, you don't want to slide out all the way to the left because you're then set up horribly for the next turn. And this whole infield section, you see this whole infield section up here, that everything there can be, you can just fall behind it so quickly to the point where you're just missing every corner if you miss one. So you want to stay to the right after this turn, and again, once you take this turn, you want to late apex it, and again, stay as far to the left as possible to set you up for the next turn. And then this next turn, you want to late apex it and stay to the right as far as possible to set for the next turn, because you can, if you stay to the right off of this turn, you can full throttle through this yellow curb here, and if you kick out too far to the left, you're going to have to lift to get around it. So that's not what you want to do. That's a lot of time lost. So we have 3 corners in a row where we want to late apex and then stay to the right. So late apex, stay to the right, get a good angle for this turn. Late apex, stay to the, sorry, you stay to the inside, I mean. It's hard to, sorry, with road courses. But late apex, stay to the inside, late apex, stay to the inside. So it might look weird that we're not using up our real estate, but it's because we're setting up our rest of the track here. Because if I used up all my real estate here, I wouldn't be able to get through there like that. And again, I'm only holding partial throttle here because it's really sketchy off this hill if you try to push it too much. You might be able to push a little more than I did, but right after this hill, I would need to start turning to the right. You can't turn right before the hill because that huge elevation change is going to really upset the car. So instead, I'm like just waiting for the elevation change, and then I immediately get to the right. If you are too early or too late on this, you're going to miss the turn, and you're going to start falling way behind again. So again, aim for the yellow curb, but instantly back towards this curb right here, and that should bring us back out. And this is finally when we can use our real estate. So for these last couple turns here, we can use our real estate. But for all the turns that lead up to it, it's best to leave room so that we can set up for the next corner because it comes at us so fast. Because the most important part is not falling behind in this sequence. The worst thing that you can do is just get late entries into everything here. Or at least late turn-ins. Because we're apexing kind of late, but our car is angled early. So that's what we're aiming for. The car being angled early into the corner. Really being proactive, making the turn. Okay, so I get the car into third here. No downshift for this corner. I start braking around that 300. You might be able to push a little bit farther than me if you're a little more aggressive. But I liked the idea of kind of trail braking through this left-hander and getting back on the throttle. You only have to get in the back on the throttle for a little bit. So I have a feeling that it might be okay to dive bomb this corner a little bit more, carry more speed into the entry just because we're setting up for our next turn right away. So this blind right-hander is like the hardest turn because again, we're waiting for an elevation change. We can't really get our turn started too early or too late because look at that, it's happening right away here. You see this groove? We kind of want to follow that really late apex type of groove. So the marking that I would use is just wait for the car to land off the hill and then immediately start trying to get that max rotation. It's hard because if you get turned too early, you're gonna kind of wash out into the grass here. So we need to slow down the car amply and then get that late apex there. And if we late apex that enough, it should set us up for getting a very aggressive last turn here. I was a little tiny bit early on this apex. It was good. Like I usually don't get it quite this good, but you can see that you want to be down here a little bit later because the later you're down here, the more you can just straight shot this last corner. I was pretty much able to straight shot the corner here, but it could have been better. But that's what our goal is. So let's go over the last sector again. Third gear. Brake into a trail brake into the left-hander, carry that speed out to the yellow, get the car started pointed right after the elevation change on the trail brake, trying to get the car late apexing into this long curb, and then straight shotting the last corner. That sequence is very tough to get right just because of how blind it is in this car sometimes, but with that, the long run lines are really not going to change too much. Yeah, you'll move your braking zones depending on how good your brakes and tires are performing. But the biggest thing is you really, really, really need to keep this car under you every single corner. The moment you start getting greedy under throttle and kicking out your rears on exit, sliding the tires, that's just more heat in them and less grip to work with for the rest of the track. So what I would recommend is just finding the limit that you can comfortably drive, that the car stays completely under you in both throttle and braking. This car loves to kick out, especially with the new aerodynamics. It has a little less side force than it used to. So it's a little bit of a handful in these corners sometimes, but that also helps the car turn a little bit better sometimes. But anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope to see you all on the track.